Welcome to Her Cancer, Our Story, a raw and honest podcast about facing stage 4 metastatic breast cancer as a couple.
All right, welcome back to Her Cancer, Our Story with Kayla and Mike. Today, we're joined by Elizabeth Laberge. Elizabeth is a wife, mom of two, music teacher, dancer, and advocate living in New York City. She was diagnosed de novo with ER-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer after finding a lump while breastfeeding her youngest child. Over the past 4+ years, she has navigated treatment, progression, and uncertainty, and has found community through places like Camp Breastie and Onco Ballet. Today, we're talking about what it really means to live with metastatic breast cancer, finding joy in the midst of uncertainty, and continuing to show up for yourself and the people you love. I loved this conversation with Elizabeth, and a lot of things really resonated with me, and I think you will really enjoy it too. So, Elizabeth, we're so glad that you're here with us today, and thank you for taking the time to share your story. Before we dive into the diagnosis and everything, we'd love for listeners to get to know you. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Elizabeth. I'm 36 years old. I live in New York City. I'm the mom of two. I have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old. And I'm a former music teacher, currently working in performing arts booking, like concert booking. And I've been living with metastatic breast cancer for 4.5 years.
Yay, 4.5. That's a big number.
Yeah.
I just want to say that New York City, like living there is my dream. And I think if I was in an alternate life, that's where I would live. Do you like living there? Did you grow up there?
So my mom grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Vermont because she fled New York City when she was old enough. And then when I was old enough, I fled back to New York City. So I've lived here since college. Okay. And right now I live in Queens in a house with my aunt and uncle, actually. So we have a family connection to the city.
Nice. And then you said concert booking, right? Have you ever, what exactly does that entail?
Yeah, so I work at Carnegie Hall, so, and my husband works there as well, but I do a concert booking, essentially, so people can pay to rent out Carnegie Hall for their performances, and I just, email people, basically.
Okay, that is so cool. All right, anything else before we kind of get into diagnosis, story, and everything?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head.
All right, so can you talk to us a little bit about what life looked like before diagnosis?
Sure. So I was 10 months postpartum with my second child when I was diagnosed. So I was on maternity leave from my job as a music teacher, and I had a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old at home, and I was basically being a stay-at-home mom at the time. So then I was breastfeeding, and right around Thanksgiving time, I felt some discomfort in my breast, and breastfeeding became a little bit challenging. Like my baby was a little fussy, and at the time, I assumed it was a clogged milk duct, so I treated it the way I had done with clogged ducts in the past. And, I did pumping and cabbage leaves and sunflower lecithin and things like that. And it didn't really go away, but the pain got a little better. So I just kind of went on with my life. And then a couple weeks later, I was in the shower and I found a lump. Okay. And that was when my life changed.
Yeah. Back when you first felt something, were you concerned at all that was anything other than related to breastfeeding?
Honestly, no. I have a family history of breast cancer. I have multiple aunts that have been diagnosed, but even so, it was not on my radar as a possibility at all. I even talked to some people who had babies around the same age, and people were like, oh, my breasts are lumpy and I have trouble with that all the time. And so it just really was not on my radar that it could be cancer at all.
Yeah. You mentioned the family history. Do you have any genetic mutations or anything like that related to the family history?
I don't have any genetic mutations, but my oncologist believes that there must be something that is just not identified yet. But eventually scientists will probably find our mutation. Because
That sounds similar to my story.
You've heard those
Yeah.
exact things.
Yeah. Because my mom and my aunt both have had breast cancer, and we have nothing other. We have the skin cancer gene, but nothing else. And they basically said there's probably something that we just don't know about yet.
Wow, yeah. One day science will catch up to us.
I know. I hope sooner rather than later.
I hope so too.
So those early appointments that kind of led you down this road, can you talk to us about that and walk us through that?
Sure. So at first, when I discovered the lump, like I said, I didn't think it was cancer at all, and I had my aunt look at it, and I think maybe now that I'm saying that, on some level, I knew something wasn't right, because she's a breast cancer survivor, and so she felt the lump, and she was like, "Go to a doctor just to be safe." But I actually didn't have health insurance at the time because I was on maternity leave for an extended amount of time, and I had just lost my work-related health care. So I went to a random private OBGYN, and I paid an exorbitant amount of money to get a breast exam, and they referred me to get an ultrasound and a mammogram. And they, at the time, didn't recommend me to get genetic testing even, because if it came back positive, it would put me in a different insurance class, and it would be even more expensive to get private insurance.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
At the time, I just kind of let the mammogram scheduler schedule me for a couple weeks later. I wasn't pressing on it because I didn't think it was that urgent. And then my aunt asked me like a week later, "So did you get an appointment?" So I called them back, and I got in off the wait list, and I really credit her for saving my life, because I was severely downplaying it. And so then I went and I got an ultrasound and a mammogram. And while I was at the appointment, they told me to stay because they found something, and they were going to get me in for a biopsy the same day. I think because it was so extreme on the imaging, it was very clear that it was cancer. They just felt like they needed to rush it along. So I was by myself because I just thought I was going for like a routine mammogram. And I got a biopsy, which I just really vividly remember. I was laying on the table, and they were prepping me for the biopsy procedure. And I just kind of casually asked the doctor who was doing it, "Oh, well, what do you think the options are that this might be?" Because, I thought maybe it was a cyst or something. And he said, "Are you asking me what the likelihood is that this is cancer? Because it's very high." And I was like, "Well, that is not what I was asking you." So I just remember, tears started streaming down my face, and the nurse who kind of helped with the procedure, she was just holding my hand. And as we walked down the hall after, she was like, "Wow, I really hate my job some days." I was like, "Aww. Yeah, me too, I guess." So, that I had this whirlwind first appointment that sent me down this rabbit hole of living with cancer. And then maybe 2 weeks later, when I got the biopsy results back, they had me do full body scans just to make sure, because at that point they thought it was like stage 2, I think.
Okay.
And then I got a CT scan and a bone scan, and those came back with metastases. So mets in my lungs, my liver, and my spine.
Oh, goodness. And thinking back, did you connect anything, like any symptoms that you potentially had, or did you really have nothing?
Honestly, looking back, not really. I had some back pain that I kind of attributed to the epidural that I had. Like, it was in the same area where I'd gotten an epidural placed during one of my births. And when I looked at the scan report, it does seem like it was in the area of my spine where the cancer is. But other than that, I had no inclination. I wasn't short of breath. I wasn't having pain in my abdomen. Yeah. Total surprise.
Did they, obviously they said, "Hey, we're going to do these scans to make sure there's nothing else." Was there concern that there was something else there, other than them just wanting to make sure, they were being very thorough?
I think it was just that my doctor, because of my family history and the age that I was, she was just trying to be extra thorough. So I really
Yeah, thank
appreciate that,
goodness.
because I have heard stories of early stage breast cancer survivors who don't get body scans. So how would you know that it's not metastatic?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stories that I've heard, like 6 months to a year later, they're finding out it's metastatic, and likely it had been prior to that early stage
Oh,
diagnosis anyway.
right, exactly.
Yeah. So at that point, did you even know what de novo metastatic breast cancer meant? Like, what did you learn in those first few days?
Well, it's funny. When I was first diagnosed stage 2, my aunt gave me a book that her breast surgeon had written, and it was called like The Ins and Outs of Breast Cancer. And so I speed read through the whole book just so I could know all the ins and outs of breast cancer. And I learned about chemo and radiation and surgery. And there was one chapter in the book called The Other 10%. And it was about stage 4. And I skipped that chapter because I just wanted to put my head in the sand about that possibility. When, my aunt said, okay, this is going to be a year-long project and we'll
Yeah.
get through it and read the book and everything will be great. So when I when I got the scan report, which I read on my chart on walking up the subway steps one day,
Oh, no.
and I saw the word metastases, I knew that word because I had read the book, but I thought it was somebody else's. Like, it just seemed like an accident that
Yeah.
there's no way this report that all these metastatic sites could be from my body, because I was in such denial about it. So I went back and I did read that chapter in the book.
Yeah.
And, you know, at, at the time when I was diagnosed, the statistics were 2 to 3 years survival. I think it was like 30% of people diagnosed stage 4 will be alive 5 years later, like very dire statistics. And I'm happy to say they have changed in the time since I've been diagnosed. The statistics are getting better. But yeah, it was very scary.
Yeah, absolutely. I know those statistics, it's so hard. And, you hear like they're outdated and all of those things. But when you get that diagnosis, your mind just spirals through the worst possible things that can happen. So you said you were walking up the subway stairs. Like, what did you do? Like, who did you talk to next? Kind of what was your next step?
So I was on my way to meet with the medical oncologist who was going to plan my chemotherapy.
Okay.
So actually, I was in a good place to open the scan report in a way.
Yeah.
I was again by myself because I thought I was just going to meet her and kind of discuss different options for after a breast surgery. And so I was going to check in on my chart for my appointment. So I was on my phone just walking up the subway steps, and I clicked accidentally the notification to open the report. And so, of course, then I read it.
Yeah.
And I just remember like my feet were walking up the subway steps, but my body was like not, I felt like I was having an out of body experience. And so I feel like I've talked a lot about my aunts, but I have another aunt who is, or she was a radiation technologist. So she knows a lot about cancer. She worked in cancer care her whole career almost. So I FaceTimed her immediately and I sent her the report, and she was like silent for quite a while.
Yeah. It's okay.
And
Take the time you need.
so she said, okay, FaceTime me into the appointment with the doctor and I will listen for you because you shouldn't be alone.
I can think back to when we sat in that doctor's office, and I wasn't alone, but that out of body experience that you talked about, it's something that I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you've been in it, but I can feel that for you. It's
Yeah,
you just don't feel like it's your life, and you're just watching somebody else.
100%. That's a really
Yeah.
good way to describe it.
But I'm so sorry. You hear so many times about people getting that information through my chart or like a notification, and I chose not to read it because I knew that it was going to come. But it was really hard to sit with that in my chart and wait. I think we waited, 24 hours, Mike?
Yeah, it wasn't very long, but.
And I don't know. I mean, I had a feeling it wasn't good, but yeah, I just going into that appointment and you don't hear 90% of what they're telling you. And then you have to walk out and just continue on with your life and figure out what it's going to look like. So after that appointment, kind of what happened, or if I just cut you off there, go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, so my aunt FaceTimed into the appointment with my doctor, and I have an absolutely incredible doctor. She's the head of breast oncology at New York Presbyterian. And I just kind of stumbled into being her patient because she was the first person they had available for an appointment.
Oh, wow.
So my aunt FaceTimed into the appointment, and I just remember she asked me, what do you need? And I said, I don't want to die. Mm-hmm. And she said, okay, well, we're gonna get you on a medication, and that medication is going to work until it doesn't, and then we'll put you on a different medication, and every year 10 new medications are approved, and so we'll just keep going like this. And I'm really glad my aunt was there to hear that, because she reminds me of that all the time. And she has like a very dark sense of humor, and we actually recreate that phone call like on the anniversary of the day. Just, a way to cope with the trauma.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was really amazing to have her there for that. And I don't think I really remember anything else from that day, but she helped me tell my family as well. So again, very grateful to her.
Yeah, it sounds like your oncologist is amazing. And I love that she just sounds like she gave you a lot of hope despite getting this terrible news on that day. And that hope is sometimes the thing that we can hang on to when things are messy and not enjoyable to, think about, and especially when you have young kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So looking back at those first few months after diagnosis, what kind of helped you cope with the reality of, what was to come? What did that look like? You can share whatever you want, or open to sharing.
I think at first it was really hard for me to be alone in a room with my children, because all I could look at was how little they were.
Yeah.
Gosh, I get very emotional thinking about this. When you've been in it for a while, you kind of don't think about those early days anymore, but even now it feels so fresh. So I had my family immediately drove to be with us from Vermont and Boston, and they just like immediately showed up like the Avengers. My mom threw some soup on the stove, and so I think what helped me cope in that early time was just the absolute love of my family.
Was there someone or something that kind of became an unexpected source of strength? Like, you talk about your family and it sounds like they're just supportive no matter what, but obviously like they were that first level of support for you during that time. But was there anybody else or anything else that you kind of found during that time?
Well, I have an amazing group of friends, and I think I hear a lot about people losing friends when they've been diagnosed with cancer. Because people are afraid to, or they're not sure how to show up for someone. But actually, I think an unexpected source of strength for me is a couple of friends who just aggressively kept showing up at my house, or texting me in the middle of the night, like, hey, you might be awake now, here's a funny meme. And just laughing through this like dark humor. With my friends about me being bald and being a very hot bald lady and things like that.
No, I love that. And I'm so happy that you had that support system, not just in your family, but your friends too, because yeah, you're right. Like, that is something I know my mom had told me, because she went through early stage, like you really figure out who's going to be there for you no matter what. Sometimes, people do leave, but you then also find out how strong your relationships really are, and friendships that maybe you didn't realize were super deep and important. Like they just kind of come out of the woodwork and are there to support you no matter what. And we've, I think, felt that too.
Yeah, definitely. Elizabeth, I have a follow-up question. When you were breaking the news, I guess, to friends and family, did you find it difficult at times to really like make sure everyone grasped what stage 4 cancer meant, or like did you feel like obligated almost to like make sure they knew exactly what you were talking about? Because I know sometimes like us, we told people like, oh, okay, you'll get through this, you'll beat it, and that kind of like left out of like, oh no, well, not really.
That's a really good question. Like, it's so common for people to want to gloss over harsh realities of life, right? And I think the number one question that I would get is, oh, I'm so sorry to hear you've been diagnosed with cancer. Did they catch it early? And it's really hard to say, I'm sorry to break this news to you, but they did not. So I started an Instagram that's just for cancer related updates pretty early on into my diagnosis, because I was feeling the lack of understanding, and I just kind of used it as like a personal diary at first, just to kind of give people a little insight into what was going on in a way that I could control, and I didn't have to have an individual conversation with everybody about it. And that was very helpful for me, and kind of channeled the information through something I could control. But people even now don't really understand, like, because I have hair right now and a lot of energy, like, some people just kind of assume you're good now.
Yeah. And it's great that we feel good and that things are going well, but we also know like we're still living with this thought in our head all the time. And I'm sure it changes, and it has ebbs and flows and things like that. And we'll kind of get into, your treatment and everything. But I know for us, like, I think being able to share through the podcast and then our Instagram, it kind of puts a buffer up of like, okay, here's this information. It allows people time to process it and maybe do their own research. And then it kind of takes that heaviness off of us a little bit more, because we don't have to be explaining things so often. And, it just kind of it's a lot sometimes.
Definitely. And one thing I do not tolerate is people giving me medical advice. Because I will listen to my doctor and my doctor alone, and I do my own research, obviously, but that's like, I've had to learn to be very clear with people, and sometimes that can be uncomfortable to set some boundaries around that.
No, good for you. And I think, I'm 7 months into this. And I think overall people have been really good about that with me. But the boundary setting is definitely something I think I need to continue to work on, not just with cancer related things, but life in general. When cancer kind of becomes part of your everyday life. So, now you're a few months in and you kind of we'll go into treatment more, but you're kind of in like a treatment place. It can kind of almost fade into the background at times. Like, what does normal life kind of look like for you right now?
Well, right now I have 2 very active little girls. They are really into dance. So I'm a dance mom. So taking them to rehearsals and recitals and things like that. We live right near a very beautiful park, and I try to get out in nature every day, because that really has been a good source of grounding for me through all this. I go and look at the water, and like I try to just be a moment of zen as much as possible. And then I actually recently started working full-time at my job. So I'm now trying to navigate what that means alongside having cancer. So that's been an interesting transition for me, figuring out now what does it mean to be in treatment and also a mom and work full-time. 3 full-time jobs in one.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of going off that treatment piece, what did your early treatment look like? I believe I saw that you actually started on Taxol first before transitioning to Kisqali, but can you kind of walk us through what that looked like?
Sure. So when I was diagnosed, my liver was basically in crisis. I had a lot of tumors there. So my doctor wanted me to start with Taxol to she described it as when a train is moving at a very fast speed, but when it hits the brakes, it goes forward before it goes to a stop. So she wanted to mitigate that as much as possible. So I did about 7 months of Taxol weekly.
Okay.
And that was pretty intense. I lost my hair. It's an intense IV chemo, but I was able to function through it, take my kids to the park and all of that. And then I did transfer after those 7 months to Kisqali, and I was very fortunate to be stable on that for then 3.5 years.
Oh, great.
So
then
I'm not sure if you want me to kind of give like an overview of my whole treatment plan, but I can certainly do that.
No, I was actually going to ask that next. Like, what did general like life, I guess, look like when you were on Kisqali, and like, did you feel mostly normal? But then I want to get into that progression piece and why you had to then switch medications.
Okay, yeah. So when I was on Kisqali, I had what I would describe as a very normal quality of life to pre-diagnosis me. I had plenty of energy. I just would have low white, like neutrophils and things like that every now and then. And I was also on anastrozole and Zoladex shots and Xgeva. Don't want to forget all the many alphabet of drugs.
Yes.
And I did 1 year in have my ovaries taken out so I could avoid getting the Zoladex shots, which are an ovarian suppression drug, because that was one of the worst parts of cancer treatment for me, was the gigantic needle that comes with that shot. But when I was on Kisqali, my quality of life was very good. My hair grew back very quickly, and I was just a regular Queen's mom.
When you, I'm on Zoladex, and thankfully the shots in general I don't do well with, but I seem to be doing really well with like icing for a few minutes and then I'm good. So thankfully so far I'm okay. But you mentioned the surgery that you had. Any takeaways from that experience? Are you happy you went through with that decision? Any big changes post-surgery?
I was very happy to have I think the surgery is called oophorectomy. I was very happy that I did that because, well, first of all, just the trauma of doing the shots every month was pretty high for me on top of everything else. But I also felt like getting the surgery would reduce any ups and downs in my estrogen because my cancer was very estrogen positive. It was almost 100% estrogen positive. So ovaries out, that went down to 0 just all the time instead of fluctuating slightly at the end of the month before the next dose. And it was a very easy laparoscopic surgery. I recovered in about a week, and I had a ton of hot flashes for like a month, and then I haven't really had any since. So good. I will shout from the rooftops the wonders of getting your ovaries removed.
That's great. Definitely something I'll consider, I guess, in the future.
So it sounds like that was a pretty easy decision for you to make when it was presented. Is that right?
It was. I would also say I'm came at it from a perspective of my family is complete. I didn't have any issues with questions around fertility preservation or anything like that when I was diagnosed, because I had my 2 kids. That was all that we ever wanted. So that part of it was like a very easy thing for me to wrap my head around. And I know that that can be difficult for people in a different situation. So just want to mention that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great point to make. That's definitely something I would consider in the future. I know my oncologist has said, if you get tired of the shots, like, let's talk about it. But right now, if you're okay, we can keep doing that. We are also done having children. So I guess, it would be more of a personal decision for me down the road. But that's good to know you had a good experience. I know my hot flashes have definitely calmed down the last couple of months versus the first couple. So we'll see how that goes.
That's part of it. The menopause aspect of cancer is something I really never expected to be part of it. And it still surprises me to this day how menopause has such a role in cancer treatment.
I know. All these things that I had I guess a general familiarity with it because my mom was not in menopause prior to her cancer diagnosis, and she was also hormone positive, so she had to go through some of that. But again, it's just different when you're the one going through it. So you luckily had a long time of stability on that first line of treatment. But then what kind of happened next that led to some shifts? You want to talk about that?
Sure. It's been a rough year, basically. The last year has been a lot of progression for me, unfortunately. So, in my last stable scan on Kisquali was in June of last year. And then in October, I had a scan where some of my lung nodules grew, very small amount, like 1 millimeter. So they did a lung biopsy. And when I was diagnosed at first, the lung nodules that I had never really changed in size throughout my treatment. The liver shrank a lot when I was on Taxol. The tumors in the liver responded really well to that, but the lung ones just kind of stayed the same. So we thought for a long time maybe what was in my lungs wasn't cancer, and it was just kind of scarring from pneumonia or general pollution or whatever. So we did a lung biopsy when they grew a little bit, and unfortunately it was confirmed that it has been cancer all along. That was a huge blow for me. And so I tried a new drug called TrueCap. I have the PIK3CA mutation and another mutation called ESR1. So it is a targeted therapy for the PIK3CA mutation. And I tried that for 3 months along with fulvestrant shots, which again, more shots. And unfortunately, it didn't work. The lung nodules grew. 3 months later, they had grown fairly significantly, and a spot in my liver popped up that when they looked back at the scan from June, it was not there in June. And then they looked at the October scan and they realized it had been there in October and they just hadn't caught it on the scan.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So another round of progression. So then I tried an oral chemo called capecitabine, and I was on that for the last 3 months. And then I just 1 month ago had a scan that showed that unfortunately that did not work at all. So again, more progression, this time mostly in my liver. So I'm now on a drug called Enhertu. I've been on it for about 6 weeks, and I'm really, really hoping this one's working.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for sure.
How do you handle that? Like getting kind of unfavorable scan results and, keeping the hope up too. Like, has that been something you struggled with, or do you feel like you're pretty good at staying positive?
Well, I wouldn't lie to you. It's hard every single time. It was even hard when I had been stable for a couple of years on Kisqali. Every single scan could be the scan. And every time progression happens, it's like being diagnosed all over again. You go through the same what ifs and, oh, I could have tried a different drug and maybe this would have been different. I wonder about lifestyle choices I've made, things I've eaten or whatever. You question everything. And I think at this point, I'm so used to getting bad scans that I am starting to come to peace with it a little bit. I had a brain scan recently, just kind of incidentally. I was getting a spine MRI and they threw in a brain MRI and they found something in my brain. And so this week I've been navigating that, and I'm hoping it's not cancer because, when you scan your body, you're going to find things, and they're just, there's a lot of other things that can happen in your body besides cancer, which sometimes I forget.
I know.
But when I read that brain scan, I didn't have the absolute spiral that I normally do. So I thought maybe I am getting a little better at coping with this uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because I'm doing everything I can do. I'm taking the medication. I'm working on my mental health, you know, those are the things I'm in control of. I'm not in control of what the cancer is doing outside of that. And so I'm doing what I can, and I have to release the rest to the universe.
I love that. Control what we can control and let go some of these other things.
Something you said there was really powerful. And you said that getting those progression scans is like being diagnosed all over again. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, I think that's something too that even I wasn't even thinking about with, stage 4, is that you have to live through hearing that over and over again, potentially. I mean, gosh, like I know Kayla's initial diagnosis, like that it's definitely confirmed breast cancer, was awful, but we're like, okay, fine, we'll beat this, and then find out later, no, it's stage 4, and it's like, oh my gosh, and then to have to do that over and over again is got to be tough. And I think the mental health aspect of it is a really important aspect of a stage 4 patient.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mental health part of it is sometimes can go by the wayside when you're trying to deal with the physical side effects. But I actually think it's more important sometimes to get your mental health in control. Like, I have done a lot with breathing techniques, and I try to do breathing at night to, stop the brain spiral that can happen when you're laying in bed. I do a lot of grounding techniques. I try to meditate, do Reiki. I never did any of that before cancer, and I've learned how important it is to stop and take a moment. And like I said before, like go out in nature and all those things. Because early stage breast cancer is a sprint that's very intense and aggressive, and it's a very physical, traumatic experience. And I think metastatic breast cancer is a marathon, and you have to build up your endurance for it.
Yeah, one of the things that I started doing recently was going to yoga, like a yoga studio, but there's other classes that I've been taking too. But I think that yoga piece and like the mindfulness and the breathing is really something I'm kind of latching onto as well. And I'm hoping to like dive deeper into that because I do feel like it plays such a big role. And I'm really working on like that physical health right now and getting stronger because I feel like, my physical body, like the stronger I am, hopefully the more I can fight through this. But yeah, that mental health piece that even comes along with that. And I know just from working out consistently, like I have more energy than I had way before the cancer diagnosis. And it's like that good reminder of, yeah, like this is doing multiple different things.
Yes, I love that. I've actually seen there's a lot of clinical research into the benefits of exercise in that part of it. So that's amazing that you're doing that. I love that.
Yeah, my oncologist, like one of the things that we had asked her was like, okay, aside from the medications, like what do you recommend that we try to do? And she said, exercise, like even walking, 30 minutes a day or whatever. And then, she said some diet type things, like nothing that's super rigid or whatever, but just being mindful of that. My diet could come a long way, but sometimes that stress piece comes in there. But the exercise is something I really latched onto early on. So you had mentioned the mutations. Did you have those mutations at the beginning, or is that something that you ended up getting, like discovering later on?
So one of the mutations, the PIK3CA mutation, I've had since the beginning.
I have that as well. So that's why I wanted to ask.
Okay, yes. Yeah. The ESR1 mutation is something that I developed, and that is like a resistance to endocrine therapies. So after being on Kisqali and anastrozole for a long period of time, that mutation is what led to the progression because the cancer kind of found a way around that endocrine therapy.
Yeah, I've read little bits and pieces about the ESR1. But
yeah,
I think kind of going back to like the medications. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, my oncologist kind of viewed the mutations as a positive, actually, because there are targeted therapies for those. So it just gives more options in the toolbox.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to ask you about, because I know when I found out that I had the PIK3 mutation, I was like, oh my gosh, now what? And she's like, no, actually, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It gives us more tools in the toolbox. So I just kind of grasp onto that and use that as a positive.
For sure.
What have you learned about living with uncertainty that you wish someone had kind of told you earlier? Like, is there anything that you would share with somebody that is struggling with that early on?
Well, two things. One, I want to say there's a concept that I read about in a guide to metastatic breast cancer that is now very out of date. So I wouldn't recommend anyone read it at this point because all the information has changed in the last 5 years. but this one concept I really wrap my mind around and I hold on to it, and it's conditional survival. So the concept of, I'm going to use the very outdated statistic that 20% of people will be alive 5 years later. Mm-hmm. But if you're alive after 1 year, the likelihood that you'll be alive 5 years after that increases. Mm-hmm. And if you're still alive 2 years later, your likelihood of being alive 5 years after that increases. And so it is, statistics and all these probabilities and things, they don't really give you much information about your future, but I try to ignore all of the terrible statistics and I just hold on to that. I say, okay, I've made it 4.5 years, so my likelihood's going up that I'm going to be here in 5 years. And another thing that I just would recommend people to do is just do the next right thing as a coping mechanism. Like, I try to tell this to my kids when they're having a meltdown. Okay, we're going to just do the next right thing. And I actually think I stole that from the movie Frozen 2.
Yep, I'm pretty sure you did, because our 3-year-old is obsessed with Frozen, and I'm like, oh, I recognize that. Yes. I wondered if you got it from there.
And so I just think when you're dealing with this devastating news, what is one thing I can do right now to help myself feel better? Is it eating some food, or have I not slept in a while? Do I need to make a doctor's appointment? Just one thing that moves you slightly forward. And that's just how I try to cope with all of this.
I love that. That's such a good takeaway. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, authors of Frozen 2.
Yes, it's such a good movie.
It is.
I love that one. Since we're kind of talking about family a little bit with your girls, and you talked a lot about family earlier, how has your family, both your immediate, your husband and your girls, and then also that, other layers of your family, how have they experienced this journey alongside you since your diagnosis and those first few months of chaos?
My husband has been my absolute rock through all of this. He's not really involved in the nitty-gritty details of the medical side of things, but he just has this unshakable belief that I'm good and I'm gonna be good, and on days when I'm not feeling good, he's there for me. So I don't know what I would do without him, to be honest. And he stepped up to take care of the kids in a beautiful, beautiful way. And for my daughters, they're not so aware of, my older daughter knows that I have cancer, but they were really young when I was bald, and I think that's kind of like a visual signifier. And when they look back at pictures, it's so normal to them that they don't ask questions about it. But I'm sure at some point soon, my older daughter at least is going to start asking more questions. So I'm going to have to navigate that. And on the drug I'm on now, I am losing my hair. Like I'm hoping it'll just thin, but it's coming out in clumps right as we speak. Like I'm thinking that I'm going to have to shave my head soon, probably. So I anticipate cancer becoming a larger force in their lives if I am bald again, just because their friends will ask questions, things like that. So I would say cancer has made me a much better mom in some aspects, because I I just feel like the urge to be very present with them in a way that I don't think I would have otherwise. But it's hard to say because I basically have had cancer almost the whole time I've been a mom. So hard to say what I would have done differently.
Yeah. Being a mom with it is just a really challenging thing in a lot of ways, but I do think there are ways, like what you said about being more present. I think something about having children really like hones in on that piece. I know, we have an 8-year-old, so that's very different than my 3-year-old. My 3-year-old has no clue really what's going on at all, but I've often had that thought of, is he ever going to remember life without me being like not sick? Because I don't really think of it that way, but just by the time he can remember things, what is that time going to look like? And it's just, there's so many unknowns, and I can't sit on that and let it control my thoughts all the time, but that's a challenging piece to navigate.
It really is. And I mean, one of the hard things about motherhood and parenting is it changes constantly. Like just when you think you've wrapped your head around something, a totally new phase happens. And I feel like it's honestly the same with cancer. So, when I was first diagnosed, I felt like I was going to die the next week. Of course, you just naturally think that. And like I said at the beginning, like I couldn't be in the same room as my kids by myself because the thought that I would not be alive, not sure how to say it. Like I just thought they would be too young to remember me. And well, I'm happy to say they're 5 and 7 now, so I sure hope they'll remember me.
It's okay. Take the time you need.
Some things are really hard to talk about,
I know.
But they're important to talk about.
Yeah. Anything with kids is a trigger for me for sure to bring on the tears. It's just, they're the most important things in my life. And I hear that from you as well. And being a mom is such a big part of who we are. So it's okay to feel all those things, but I appreciate that you're willing to talk about all of this for others to hear it too.
I think it's so important. It's something that separates younger people with breast cancer from older people with breast cancer. Like when I tried to find support groups, I think I found like a Facebook group or something, and there was someone lamenting that they wouldn't get to see their granddaughter get married. And that felt like such a slap in the face to me. It's like, I just want to see my daughter be potty trained. And I'm happy to say both my daughters are potty trained.
Yay!
And my youngest daughter is going to kindergarten this fall, which that is such a big milestone for her. But all of their milestones, because they were so young when I was diagnosed, are my cancer milestones too. Like early on, I just said, okay, I just want to see my youngest daughter out of diapers. And then it was, let me just live until my oldest daughter goes to pre-K. Yeah. And so now I just keep moving those milestones forward, and I've been there for all of them. And that's such an amazing gift. I'm so grateful that I've been there. And, let them keep coming, please.
Absolutely. I love that you framed that in that milestone piece of like picking a milestone, getting there, and then setting that next goal. Because I think that can apply to so many different aspects of life, but it's a good reminder for all of us living with this, that, what is something that you want to get to? And when you're in like that dark hole of deep, scary thoughts, you can think of, okay, no, what do I need to do to get to this part? So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. What do you hope that your girls kind of learn from you in this experience as they're growing up? Not just your cancer, but just about who you are as a person, because you are so much more than just cancer.
Oh, wow. That is such a great question. I hope that my children take just joy. It's so important to have joy in your life. And I try to dance and sing and be silly every single day. and, dance like a mad woman around the kitchen, because even when you're feeling very unstable emotionally, you can still move your body and be ridiculous and laugh about it, because it's kind of funny being a human. Like, I just hope that's something they can learn from me, and I hope other people can as well, that having really difficult situations in life is just hard and dark and bad things happen, but you can still laugh every day.
That's perfect. And speaking of dance, I kind of want to get into some of the Onco Ballet in New York City that you've been involved in. Can you share what is it and what did that look like for you?
Sure, yeah. I was really excited to be part of the inaugural New York City group of Onco Ballet. It's California based, but they opened a chapter in New York. So I was a dancer growing up as a kid. I danced ballet pretty seriously until I was a teenager. And then, I transitioned to music in college, and I didn't really ever dance again. And after my cancer diagnosis, I did just start dancing, like I said, like crazy, crazy dancing in my kitchen. My apartment has a giant mirror on one wall in our living room, and it's like a dance studio almost. And so I just make my dance studio and my kids' dance studio. And it's been how I get my nervous system regulated. So participating at Onco Ballet was really nice, because it was a weekly ballet class, and it brought me back to my childhood and my roots, and just being able to still move like that, even though, certain things have to be modified because of cancer bones. Just being able to feel graceful and present in my body has been really nice. And I guess I had over the years forgotten how much I loved to dance. And then, I don't know, I just remembered again, this is actually really great. And I need to do more of this. And it gave me something every week that I had to get out of the house and do. And I needed to book a babysitter to do it. But every week, Mommy has ballet class, and that's for me. And that's also very important for my kids to see, and just for my mental health to have something outside the house that's just for me.
I think I saw in one of your recent Instagram posts, you mentioned something about like it's taught you to like trust your body again. Yeah. How important was that?
Well, going through cancer, I never have had symptoms from the cancer. I have some pain in my breast, but really other than that, I have no symptoms. And there's no sense of how well I am or how ill I am based on what I feel in my body. And so I think it's a very destabilizing feeling to know that you're very sick in a way, but also to feel very well. So I think dancing moving my body in a purposeful way that I can control feels really good.
I can connect with that so much, just because, like I said, I started going to that yoga studio, I guess like early May or end of April. And so it was a couple months after diagnosis. But it was a way for me to feel a little bit of control over like what my body was feeling, because similar to you, I don't feel anything other than the menopause type stuff. So some hot flashes, but again, those have subsided a bit, and some joint pain, but I don't feel the bone mets at all. So yeah, like what you said of we're technically really sick, but we're not feeling any symptoms of that illness. And then also pair that with, my boys see me going to the yoga studio a couple different times a week, every week, and just telling them, yeah, I'm going to yoga. And they just know. Like even when I come downstairs sometimes and I have like my leggings on or whatever, my youngest is like, are you going to yoga? And oftentimes I'm wearing leggings even when I'm not going to yoga. So, but it's just, I love that they are seeing me do something that's important to me. And for so long, Mike and I have had conversations about this. Like, I was mom. That was my main role. I didn't really do much outside of that other than my job and things. And so I've realized the importance of them seeing me doing other things for myself and prioritizing that part of myself. and they can learn like the health part of that. Yeah, like moving my body is good. So I hear you saying so much of that, and it's just resonating so much with me, and I love it.
Yes, so much of what you say, I just relate to. Like, our stories are so similar. It blows my mind.
I know. So everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel, yes, that's exactly what I think.
A couple of months ago, my therapist asked me, like, what do you do for you? And I didn't have an answer. I thought about it for so long, and I was like, wow, that's kind of sad. Like, everything I do is for other people. And so I think having this commitment that I made to be somewhere every week, this is for me now. So, and once I committed to that, it was easier to claim other things in my life too.
Good.
Like, mommy's going to go sit on the couch and read.
Yeah.
And it's good for our kids, like you said, to see us prioritizing ourselves.
And I feel much better sitting reading and telling them, nope, this is my reading time, versus just like scrolling on my phone. Like, they don't need to see me doing that all the time.
Right.
And that's not good for my mental health either.
Absolutely.
I kind of want to transition to another fun thing that you've experienced, and that is Camp Breastie. So I had major FOMO.
For hours.
I'm so excited. And when you reached out and said that you wanted to come on the podcast, and then I saw that you were part of Camp Breastie, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to her about this. So I didn't get to go this year because I didn't really know about it. But I'm really hoping I can go next year. So for anyone who hasn't heard of Camp Breastie, can you tell us what it's about?
Well, I sure hope you can come next year.
I'd love to.
It's a camp. It's at a girls' summer camp for people affected by breast and gynecological cancers. So that's people with stage 4, early stage survivors, previvors, who are people with a genetic predisposition to cancer who may or may not have had preventative surgeries, and caregivers as well. And it's an indescribable experience, because to say it's an adult summer camp for people with cancer does not do justice to what it is. You go and you're just absolutely wrapped up in love from the minute that you set foot on the campus. And it's so healing to be around 500 other people who can relate to you on some level that nobody else in your life can relate to you. Everybody stands up from the table, achy from their joint pain. And I don't know, the first time I went to camp, that alone was a very healing experience for me, because I have a lot of joint pain from being on these drugs. And sometimes when I've been sitting for a while, my feet really hurt when I stand up. And I try to just kind of mask the pain from it. But seeing other people struggle with that too, it's just, you feel like, oh, I'm not the only one. And it's also overwhelming emotionally, I will say, to see so many young people all going through this horrible experience. But the community aspect of it is just so special. So I went to my first camp in 2023. And then I went in 2023, and then the next year I decided to be a cabin leader, because campers are grouped into cabins, and each cabin has a cabin leader who kind of facilitates the experience for the group. And I just felt like I wanted to give back to the community, because my first year was so special and it gave me so much. So since then I've been a cabin leader. I also host the virtual meetups for the stage 4 group for the Breasties. So I just think it's a great organization, and you should definitely join. We would love to see you at camp. I could go on about it for hours. Stop me anytime.
No, I love it. I have so many questions, but one of the ones is that it's unique because it brings together people across all stages, but also not just breast cancer. So what is that like, sharing space with both early stage and metastatic, and then other gynecological cancers as well?
Well, there's definitely... I'm not sure how I want to answer this question. Let me think for a minute. I will say there's definitely people who are metastatic who prefer to only be in community in the cancer space with other people who are metastatic. And I fully understand and respect that, because it's a totally different experience than early stage breast cancer and certainly being a previver. But I actually think it's really special because at camp you're in cabins that are intentionally mixed with other, all the different stages. And you learn things that you wouldn't have thought to ask about. So I've never had breast surgery because I was diagnosed de novo metastatic. And so I never knew anything about what that experience is like. And then meeting previvers has been really special for me because my sister is a previver, my daughters are previvers, and so many of them have the experience of having a parent or someone in their family who maybe passed away from breast cancer or who's living with stage 4 breast cancer. So they really seem to understand what that's like in a different way, and getting to talk to them really openly about it, I think it's healing for both people. So I just think it opens you up to understanding in such a beautiful way, and you build relationships and you check in with people throughout the year, and you know that people have your back. If you have a medical question, you have a huge bench of people that you can reach out to. So it's really special in that way.
Yeah, I love that you shared that part about just the learning from the various stages and all of that. I'm actually going to the YSC's Wellness Summit in September.
Oh, fun.
And that's a mixture of both metastatic and early stage. And I'm open to all of that, but it's definitely a little like, well, like, am I going to feel like the elephant in the room type of situation? So I just love hearing your perspective from a different space, obviously, since it's Camp Breastie versus the Wellness Summit. But I can imagine that it's pretty similar as far as just it's a community where even if you're not going through the exact same thing, you can still have an understanding of all of us are going through tough things.
Yeah. And there's definitely, like, before my first camp, I was so terrified because we are the elephant in the room for early stage survivors.
Yeah.
We're their worst nightmare, right? And so it's hard to walk into a room of mixed stages and know that. And I've definitely had people make insensitive comments to me, or you can pick up on vibes that they're scared of hearing more from me, or, whatever. But I try to just show up and be very joyful and just my full self. And I hope that through that presence, it can even help them feel a little less fear, because before I was diagnosed, I didn't know anyone living with stage 4 cancer. But I think if I did, and I saw what it was really like, I probably wouldn't have been as scared. So I try to be that person now for other people, because
that's amazing.
Seeing, oh, wow, she seems to have a lot of energy and she's still here almost 5 years later. I think it makes an impact.
Oh, of course. 100%. I think, my interpretation of what stage 4 diagnosis meant just across the board of any cancers was very different prior to this. So I love that we're able to share that with others and show that we can still live really full lives and be fairly normal despite this diagnosis that we're living with. You talked about, I want to talk to you about your favorite event there. So I know there's so many different things. So if you can't pick just one, that's okay. But if you can pick kind of like a couple, that would be great. Things that you guys do there.
I'm going to brag on myself for a minute.
Yeah.
My favorite event this year was I was the host and moderator for a panel discussion of all stage 4 voices. And it was the first event of its kind like that, because the Breasties does like to mix stages. And so they try to present panels with someone from every stage, which is wonderful and makes sense. But I felt like it was really important for people to get an unfiltered look at what it is like to live with stage 4 cancer. So my lovely friend Stacy and Lindsay and we advocated hard for this panel, and it was really cool to have a discussion with all stage 4 panelists and moderators, and we answered questions about what it's really like to live with this diagnosis, and we took questions from the audience, and there were a lot of early stagers in the audience, and so that was by far just a moment of pride for me, but also just such a cool moment of visibility, and to see how far things have come from my first camp Breastie until now, how much I've changed over that time, and like become a much louder voice. I just could never have imagined doing something like that before cancer. Like standing on a stage and moderating a panel discussion would never have been on my bucket list. And so it was like a cool moment of seeing how far I've come personally, and some of the gifts that have come out of this cancer experience.
Yeah, that's incredible. Way to go. I love that.
And then my other favorite event is Breastival, which is like a festival, and you get dressed up in crazy outfits and shake your butt.
Yes, I saw tons of pictures and videos from that, and I was like, I want to be there.
Next year.
Yes, definitely. I need to just put the dates on my calendar, and well, I follow it on Instagram now too, so I'll see when the information starts coming out. Yeah, so you served on the DEI committee, and just kind of about inclusivity and things like that with the cancer committee or community. Can you just talk about that work and why that matters to you?
Well, one of the reasons that I have gravitated towards the Breasties over the years is they're a very inclusive organization, and it's part of their founding principles. I think a lot of events and things like that in cancer space, breast cancer space, they're very pink and pink sister warriors, things like that, and that vibe does not match my values really. Anyone can get breast cancer. Men get breast cancer, trans people, so their inclusivity really matters to me a lot, and so anything I can do to move that work forward, I want to contribute in whatever way I can. And then also advocating for more stage 4 voices is one second, I want to be diplomatic.
No,
you can cut this part out. So being on the stage 4 committee of the DEI committee is important to me, because I think it's important for people, for the organization to be led by people who have the lived experience. And having stage 4 cancer does put you in a marginalized group. Like a lot of other organizations, they're really heavily focused on early stage breast cancer, and people with stage 4 cancer feel left out. And so changing certain language or the way you frame messaging, it really matters to people to know, oh, I'm going to be safe here. I'm going to feel like I belong.
That's really powerful. And they're lucky to have you as part of that and that advocacy there. I think that's great. I was thinking kind of earlier on with something that you had said about early stagers, and just how important it is to really bring stage 4 to light for multiple different reasons. But one of the ones that I often am thinking about is just that is the one that ends up, you die from that, basically, for lack of better words, because I'm not coming up with thoughts very easily for some reason right now. But I think the research, if we can put more money into research for stage 4, that will only help early stage as well. So how can we respect and support early stage while also making sure that stage 4 is respected and supported?
It's shocking how little funding goes towards metastatic breast cancer, and that's the only kind that kills. And a lot of the drugs that are developed for metastatic breast cancer end up benefiting the early stage population. So it really just lifts all boats to have more funding for metastatic research. Like now they give Kisqali to early stage survivors as part of their treatment. That is
Yeah, my mom was on Verzenio for 2 years after her chemo and radiation and surgery. So, yeah, it's like that's a medication that I could be on at some point. Because Kaskali and I aren't really friends right now. So,
oh no,
yeah, it's just my liver numbers, but it's okay.
Oh, that's how I was on the last drug I was on. My liver did not like it. So when I moved on from that one, I was a little like, okay, at least my liver will get a break. But yeah, I think that's that's such an important point about why advocating for stage 4 funding is so important, because it gives more options to everybody. And I see a lot of the times, I think I don't know if this is true, but what I perceive to be true is people believe that why would you bother with them? It's just buying a little more time. But a little more time to the person who's living it is, I know my family would take even one extra month with me.
Absolutely.
That's so important. So it's more than just buying time for people. It's life.
Yeah. And something I've said and on the pod, and Mike and I have talked about, is stage 4 doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care how much money you make. It doesn't care where you live. It doesn't care the job that you have. Anybody can get it.
Yes.
And for people like us, we're de novo. Like, we had no signs that would indicate that it would be stage 4. And so I think if we can just get that message further out there to more people and really bring it home that it could be anybody's parent or sibling or spouse or whatever that might be, is just hopefully will gain traction and bring more awareness to that space.
I sure hope so. I think I have seen a shift in this over through the time that I've been living with cancer. I think the needle is moving on. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but how aware are we really when I had a painful lump in my breast and I didn't even think it was cancer? I walked in a Susan G. Komen walk at some point in my teen years, but didn't make me more aware of what it's like to have cancer. So I do think people are more aware of pink washing and things like that, which is where, you're selling a pink item and donating 5% of the proceeds to breast cancer. But what does that really mean? Where does that money actually go? I think people are starting to understand that a little bit more, and I hope we can just keep that snowball rolling.
And I do think that's where, social media isn't always great, but I think with the way social media has just become so huge over the last, a lot longer than the last several years, but people are able to use their platform so much more than ever before to share their story. And that's part of the reason why Mike and I wanted to do this, just to help build this community and the awareness and spread that message more. Because so many people that we're friends and family with really had no idea what it was and what it meant. So if they can then share what they've learned from us with other people, then that message will just keep traveling.
Love that. So important.
Yeah. So is there anything else, like as far as advocacy, that you've become involved in over the years?
Well, I have been part of the Metaviver Stage 4 Stampede, which is in October. They bring a group of advocates to Washington, D.C., and you meet with your Congress people to advocate for various pieces of legislation around breast cancer care. So that was really cool. I did that 2 years ago. I'm hoping to do it again this year. I couldn't make it last year because I was getting a lung biopsy the same day as the stampede. No. That's just life with cancer, But that's very special because getting to actually meet with lawmakers who control funding and budgets, that can be very impactful. And they want to hear your stories because they're not experts in breast cancer. They're experts in writing laws. And so hearing from people who are impacted by it actually can really change things. So when I was there, I believe they're still trying to get this bill passed. It's called the Metastatic Breast Cancer Access to Care Act. It's something that actually very personally affected me because so when you're diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, you can be eligible for disability, Social Security disability, but you have to be on it for 24 months before you can be eligible for Medicare. And when your health insurance is so wrapped up in employment, and you have cancer and it's difficult to work and you need to go to doctor's appointments, that can be a very terrible situation. And so I had Medicaid, and then I lost my Medicaid, but I still had 9 months before I was eligible for Medicare on this disability thing. So, it's a whole complicated situation, but it was very cool to talk to the lawmakers and see them look at me, a young person who cannot work because of my cancer and I don't have health insurance, and seeing the seeing their eyes light up and say, wow, I can very easily make a difference here, was really cool.
Yeah, that is. And I think that's a reminder of we are all living longer than the statistics were saying. And so we need to make changes then. We can't just keep things the way they always are. We have to change and shift based on the current data. But then that's a whole different thing. The data is
but
not necessarily accurate, but...
How does it make any sense that the data says I'm going to live 36 months, but I have to wait 24 months to get health insurance? Who wrote that law? They weren't thinking.
Does not make sense at all. What is a misconception about metastatic breast cancer that you wish we could change?
Well, I think at this point, because of the amazing new drugs that we have, like Verzenio and Kisqali, metastatic breast cancer has become somewhat of an invisible illness. So I had a little bit of a different experience because I did lose my hair when I was first diagnosed. But when it grew back, meeting new people was uncomfortable for me because breast cancer is such a big part of my life. But the moms at daycare didn't know that that was something going on in my life. And it's awkward to bring it up. You almost have to out yourself in a really uncomfortable way and be like, actually, I have cancer and it's stage 4, but I'm actually okay. And, it's just weird. So I think a big misconception about breast cancer is that you're going to be bald and emaciated. And oftentimes that's not the case. I have a friend who she actually was accused of making up that she had breast cancer by her employer because she didn't look sick enough.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So I think as the medications improve and our side effects are less, some awareness needs to change around what it looks like to actually live with cancer.
Gosh, that is so frustrating.
Right? It's traumatizing enough to go through it, but then to have to justify on top of that, it's just really messed up.
Yes. Absolutely. How has connecting with other women living with metastatic breast cancer helped to kind of change your perspective, but also shift the way that you live your life and the things you get involved in? And how has that helped you?
I think finding the community of breast cancer survivors has really been a game changer for me because nobody else gets it like someone living with cancer. You can talk to people about your darker thoughts and they won't shy away from it. So I have a group chat on Instagram of the people who regularly come to our Breastie's virtual meetups and from camp and things. And it's like the most hilarious group of people. People with cancer are so funny. Yep. And if you have a medical question, you can throw it in the chat and 2 people have experienced the same exact thing. And that's really incredible. The power of community is so strong. And so I just really credit knowing other people who've gone through this with helping me get through it. I've gotten questions to ask my doctor from people that I would have never thought about. Gosh, I got really distracted by that.
It's okay. That's how I am all the time lately.
Menopause brain.
Yeah. What? Oh, Mike,
I think
100%.
you've said that exact term. Yeah.
But I think just talking about that community that it has given you, that, you know, your friends and family are amazing, but it's a different level of connection that you've been able to create despite this horrible diagnosis. The
That's a really good way
sisterhood
to
or
phrase it.
friendship.
Yeah. And I think that it's definitely hard at the same time. As much as it gives, it can also weigh on you to know a lot of people with stage 4 cancer, because people do pass away. And I just lost someone this week that was very special to me, and it's so hard every single time. And I just always try to remember my story is not their story, but your brain does inevitably go there. And every time that I lose someone I care about, I also, I wonder, should I continue to be involved in this community? It hurts so much to lose someone, but I get so much out of it, and it's 100% worth it, to the risk of connection, because I've gotten so much from these people. And even when loss happens, it's because I loved them. And it's wild to think I can feel so much love for someone that, like, I met over a weekend and then I chat with on Instagram. But that just kind of is a testament to how deep your connections are with someone else living with metastatic cancer, because it's just this like immediate bond, and it's so worth it, even though the heartbreak happens.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's something that has been difficult for me as a newer diagnosed metastatic breast cancer thriver. Just there have been some big losses in the community. More recently, Brittany Beadle is one that comes to mind. She's one that I followed really early on in my diagnosis, and she was just such a positive light, and seeing just the outpouring of love that was sent to her and her family was incredible. But that was hard. And then, you see different people posting about friends that they have lost, and it is something that I kind of sit back and I'm like, man, like the further into this community that I get, it's great, but there are going to be really hard times too. And just the people that we'll lose along the way. It's scary, and it's really opening yourself up to a vulnerable place to be in.
Definitely. And it's hard because you naturally are going to think about your own situation.
Yeah.
And then feel guilty that you're making the loss about yourself. And so I'm very familiar with what you're saying here. There was a really amazing Instagram content creator when I was first diagnosed that I got a lot of hope from, Knick Knack Lou. And when she passed away, it destabilized me for quite a while. Like, I completely detached myself from my cancer Instagram. I just stopped for a while and took a step out of the community. And then when I was ready, I joined back in. And so if you have to do that, I think it's really understandable to take that space and not feel guilty about it. Everybody needs a break from it. Like, you can't be all cancer all the time. It's too much.
Yeah, no, that's a great insight. Definitely something that I've had to work on practicing a little bit, of just like, nope, okay, this is a little too much for me right now. I'm spiraling too much. I got to take a step back. And I think it can have so many positives and great things going on, but then there's a lot of heaviness there. So if somebody is listening that has been newly diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, you know, we're talking a lot about the heaviness that it can bring, but I've also heard you talking about the community and the friendship and everything. For your story specifically, what would you want them to hear?
So I think the day I was diagnosed, I thought, I'll never laugh again. This is it for me. My life is a tragedy now. And that could not be farther from the case. Yeah. I have done so much since my diagnosis. And I've met marathon runners. I've met pole dancers, like everybody who's living with this disease is just absolutely grabbing life and living it. And so what I want newly diagnosed people to know is that it's another chapter in your life. It's not the last chapter of your story, because every day you wake up is another page, and you get to decide what that story is going to say. Hello, metaphor.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's being diagnosed is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new part of your story.
I think that can give a lot of newly diagnosed people hope in a moment where there feels like there's none. Because I felt very similar the early parts of that stage 4 diagnosis, and still do sometimes, but I've come a long way in the 6-7 months since then. So kind of looking forward, you've, I guess, just, you've lived with this for almost getting close to 5 years here now. In that time, what has surprised you the most about you or life in general or this community?
One thing that has surprised me is how much I have had to advocate for myself to get the medical care that I deserve, and like the amount of vigilance that requires, because our medical system is just not very functional at times. And so when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I didn't have a regular OBGYN. So, I found out on my chart. I got a call after the weekend from a radiologist that had done the biopsy. And then I said, what do I do next? And there was nobody there to tell me what to do. And that shocked me. I was like, I have cancer. What now? Yeah. Somebody's got to tell me surely what to do. So I have learned since then that you have to do your own research and trust your doctors, but also ask questions and ask the right questions and get second opinions when you need to. And nobody's going to care about your life more than you. So if you have to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable by like being annoying and calling a doctor's office every day to see if they have a cancellation and, be the problem patient that's sometimes when I go to get my blood work, I only see 2 vials on the table and I say, I'm sorry, I usually get 4 vials of blood taken. Something's wrong here. And I am a people pleaser, so that I feel very uncomfortable doing that kind of thing, but you have to do it. And that has been shocking at times. Like, it's exhausting, but it's important.
Well, and I think about, you live in a huge medical, you live in one of the biggest cities, and there's so many different hospitals and really intelligent people out there. And we live in Maryland, and while we live in a smaller community in Maryland, we have big name hospitals an hour down the road. So I think about, we have access to all of these resources, but there's so many people out there that live in really small rural communities. And if they only have access to one doctor and one hospital, and other big name places are really far away, or they don't have the ability to travel there for one reason or another, what are they missing out on? And that is frustrating and hard to hear and hard to see online sometimes when I read some of these stories.
Absolutely. And I think of people like my mother-in-law who does not speak English. She only speaks Spanish. So when she goes to medical appointments, my husband translates for her, but he doesn't understand all of the medical terminology. So there's things that are lost in translation that can really impact your care too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thankfully she has him able to go to some of those appointments with her, but for people who might not have that as a resource too. So then, not only is there the medical, wording and everything where I know I have a hard time in these appointments, and I'm like, what? And we live in this world now. But then if you also have that language piece plus nobody to help support you through that translation, I can't even imagine just working in education and, families that come in and they don't speak English and trying to help them understand, what is needed and the various things. My heart goes out to them. It's hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What is something that you're looking forward to right now?
Well, I'm looking forward to my daughter's first day of kindergarten.
Yay.
That feels like such a big milestone. And she's turning into just like a little kid now. And I felt when I was first diagnosed that her baby year was so eclipsed by cancer. And when I look back at that time, like it's just a blur of trauma and all these things. I'm going to tear up thinking about it. But she's grown into such an amazing little person and barely knows that I have cancer. So that's amazing. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing her with her little backpack go into the school building.
It's the best, like kindergarten with the big backpack on these little bodies.
Yes.
I love it so much.
It's going to feel like such an accomplishment for her, but also for me. So.
Yeah, let's definitely celebrate both of you on that day and just the time leading up to that for sure. All right. Let's see here. Mike, did you have anything else before we kind of get into our closing questions?
No, this has been great.
I know. All right. So we have some light ones, and then we'll kind of wrap up with the ones that we always ask. What's one song that always makes you smile?
Okay, there are so many. That's like an impossible question to ask a musician.
Well, especially with you being like so into music and everything.
Yeah. But I will say one song that, since I've been diagnosed, makes me smile is called It Is What It Is by Jenna Rains. And the lyrics are just, it is what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is. And I just feel like that is such a great motto or like mantra for living with cancer. Like, it is what it is, and it is what you make of it. And it's just a fun song. So definitely check it out.
Yeah. I feel
it's
like
like
that's
asking
often my
who's
response.
your favorite child, though.
Yeah.
I can't pick one song.
Yeah. But often when I'm like telling people I have stage 4 cancer, and then they're like, oh, like, they ask their follow-up questions or whatever, and like, how are you doing? And I'm like, it is what it is. Like, that's my just go-to response, because I am uncomfortable and I don't know what to say.
I think it's a really good response, too, because it's true.
Yeah. I mean, we can't change it, so let's see how we can live with it. I know this kind of goes back to that dance piece, but is there a dance style that is your favorite? Is ballet your favorite, or is there something else?
Yeah, definitely ballet. I think just the length and grace of it is something that has always really called to me. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional dancer, and my parents kind of steered me away from that. I think they were worried I was going to develop an eating disorder or something. Like, the ballet world is very cruel to young women. Yeah. But I just think as an art form, it's so special.
Okay, this is kind of a 2-part question. I'm going to break it into. So if you could see any artist perform live, who would it be? But also, do you have a favorite that you have seen one perform? Putting you on the spot.
Gosh. Well, I think I saw Queen Herbie live. She's a rapper. It's Qveen as Queen and Herbie. She's like kind of like a witchy rapper. And she was incredible live. I went not knowing much about the artist.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know much, but I have to look it up now.
There are a lot of curse words, so it's not kid-friendly in any way. The clean versions of the songs are like basically all bleeped out. But the music has a really positive message, and they're very empowering, and she's got amazing flow, like off the charts live presence. So that's my answer. But again, a really hard question.
Yeah. Is there one that you really want to go see that you haven't been able to yet?
Well, I would really like to go see the Berlin Philharmonic in Berlin.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So,
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, put that on your list. Start planning that trip.
Yes.
Okay, I told you before we started recording that New York City is like my dream place to live. If I didn't, well, I'm married to Mike, who can't stand cities at all. Like they
Oh
just
no.
stress him out majorly. So we could never live in a big city.
I drove through New York City once, like right through the heart of it on accident, not knowing exactly
Okay,
where it
well,
was taking me.
that's a
And it was a nightmare.
you cannot base your impression on New York City based on driving through it because I don't drive in New York City.
No,
Oh
he
my
just doesn't
gosh.
like
I
any
had
city.
a cop, like he was doing traffic, and he's like, "Will you effing turn?" But there's like all these people crossing. I'm like, "What do you want me to do?" And he's like, "Just drive." And he just kind of drove in, and they all kind of like walk around the car, and it's like, I'm not built for this.
I hope one day you'll experience it as a pedestrian.
Yes.
not a
Oh, we're
driver.
taking the train in for sure.
Yeah, but so I said I would live in New York City. Like that would be a dream. DC or New York City if I could. But what would be like your perfect day in New York? I want to hear from the New Yorker perspective.
Oh my goodness. Well, my perfect day would start with getting a pastry and walking up Central Park West.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful architecture and the Central Park, views and everything. And then we would go see a show at Lincoln Center, maybe go to the opera, and just sit and read a book by the fountain at Lincoln Center. I just love to be in the presence of culture and people watch in the parks. It's just so fun to see everybody and hear the different languages and people's outfits. There's so many things to do here. I can't pick a handful of things. But I think that would be like my dream day. Pastry, like a really good pastry, walk through the park, and then an opera at Lincoln Center.
All right. So when I plan my next trip I've been to New York once. My cousin was running the marathon several years ago.
Oh,
but
fun.
yeah, but it was kind of a whirlwind weekend. I mean, we still got to do some fun things, but there's so much more that I want to do. So when I schedule that trip, I'm going to message you and say, where do I get a pastry? And let you know. Maybe we can meet up.
Yes, I'll meet you there. Love it.
Perfect. What's something that's bringing you joy lately?
Wow, why is this question so hard?
Well, maybe there's a lot.
It's been a tough week. It's
Yeah.
been a very tough week. So I need to hear this question so that I can think about it. Yeah, what has been bringing me joy lately? I think I've just been reading a lot and escaping into a really good book is so, it's like, it brings me back to childhood when I would like stay awake reading the Harry Potter books under my covers with a flashlight.
I did that too.
Yeah. So I think just really getting back into reading as an adult has brought me a lot of joy.
I love that. Is there a book that you've read recently that you would recommend?
Ooh,
I can
just
never
read-
think of the names of books, so if you can think of it, I'm impressed.
So my best friend has been trying to get me to read the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas for like years. And I finally was like, okay, I'll do my friend homework and I'll read the series. And I did end up really like the first book I read kind of begrudgingly. And by the seventh book, I was like all in up
You
at 2
sound
in the
like
morning
me.
trying to finish it.
I've not read it either, but I've heard, I have a friend that I work with that loves that series and she keeps mentioning it, whenever we talk about books. And I haven't been able to pick it up yet, but maybe I will.
Your time will come.
And then I'll be doing the same thing, staying up till 2 a.m. reading.
Yeah.
Okay, so our final question. So let me start by saying, just show up has kind of become a mantra of mine because when I was in the thick of the early diagnosis and everything, I had somebody who became a friend, and that was something that she would always tell herself when she was going through her breast cancer diagnosis of just like, if she had an appointment coming and she really didn't want to go, it was like, just show up and the doctors will take it from there. And that has been something that we've talked a lot about, just showing up for your friends, showing up for your family, those types of things. And so I want to ask you, what does showing up mean to you?
I love that as a mantra. To me, showing up means every morning when I open my eyes, I'm grateful to still be here another day. And I think about how we are little dots on a spinning marble in the vastness of the universe. And even though things feel really, really hard sometimes, it's still just so improbable that we even exist. Mm-hmm. And that we exist at the same time as these life-saving drugs. Mm-hmm. And it's actually so beautiful and cool. So showing up to me means opening my eyes every day and just saying, I am here in this, I exist. And that is a miracle.
That is the perfect answer.
Oh, thank you.
Would you like to let everyone know where we can find you on social media? Is that something that you're open to?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is just Elizabeth.
And we can put that in the notes.
Yes. So when I was a teenager, I traveled to Thailand, and people couldn't pronounce my name, Elizabeth, so they would call me a little bit.
Okay.
That's where I got my name from.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. So cool. I love it. All right. Well, Elizabeth, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Just so much of what you shared resonated with me, and I feel like there's so many little takeaways from this episode. So I just appreciate it so much that you were able to come on and share your story.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I think you guys are doing something really special with this podcast. So I can't wait to hear more from both of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing your story with us and giving us your time. It's been an hour and 45 minutes, so.
Oh my gosh.
I appreciate that. I know. All right. Well, thank you.